is Sean Bricker, and he's running for Magnolia ISD position 3. And it's March 5th. And with me is Del Fessman, James Byers, David Smith, and Larry Rogers. And as we discussed, Sean, go ahead and start off. You can open up with your 5-minute opening, and then we'll go around the table with questions.
Sure. Well, again, I appreciate y'all having me here. Reiterate, my name is Sean Bricker. I live in Magnolia with my wife, Melissa. We've been married for, I shouldn't have to pause, coming up 7 years. 7 years, two little boys, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. So if you think I always look tired, it's because I'm pretty much always tired. But I read an article that said after 6 years, it's supposed to get better. So we got 5 more to go, supposedly. And then we get to lose sleep when they get older. We have to worry about them. But we've lived in Magnolia for 6 years now. Prior to that, we lived in Missouri County. Oil and gas brought me into Magnolia. Engineer by degree. After I got out of the Navy, used my GI Bill. Went to school, got my nuclear engineering degree, and started working at the nuclear power plant out of Magnolia County. And then kind of decided that it was time for a little bit of a change. Oil was booming, and so me and my wife kind of jumped ship. She's the brains in the family. She has her master's from A&M in nuclear engineering.
So you both glow.
Yes, exactly. She's the genius, other than the fact she married me, but it's worked out good for her so far. So, yeah, right now I work actually in Grimes County. I just it's been a month and a half. So oil and gas got a little bit tiresome. Obviously there was the downturn. I ended up in a project management role I didn't like. So now I'm a maintenance manager at a gas turbine power plant. In between in Shiloh, but nobody really knows where that is. So between Huntsville and College Station. Politically, definitely very conservative. Always associated myself with the Republican Party, and at times that's not always. I guess get a little disappointed by your folks sometimes, but you do the best you can to hope you can turn it around. It's the best thing we got. So you do your best. And, I used to concern myself more with federal politics. I actually spent 6 months or so trying to run against Kevin Brady for Congress. But then we were blessed with our second child. My wife was really sick, and somebody once told me you can only give 100% to 2 things. And I had to keep my job and my family, who was getting ready to drastically change, and my sick wife decided that wasn't the opportune time. So kind of get, since having done that, I get a little more disenfranchised with national politics, of course, like so many of us, and started focusing much more on local efforts where I believe if we all get more attention, we could be doing a heck of a lot better in Texas instead of always worrying about what's going on in DC, where, sad to say, we have very little ability to control what's going to happen there, even with the best efforts and sending the occasional good folks there. So that's what brought me, of course, Magnolia, children getting ready to enter school age, started looking at the school district some. Of course, last year we had the TRE election as well, so that got a lot more attention drawn to the district, and got me looking at it. Somebody asked me about, it must have been 6 or 7 months ago, if I'd run for school board, and I thought about it for a while. And it took a while to decide because I was working through this job situation, and the stars kind of aligned. I got this great opportunity and got settled in time to be able to pursue this election. And so now I just stay up till probably 2 in the morning every night, crunching numbers and more public information requests and data gathering. The engineering in my background, always making charts and tables and graphs. I think that's one of the things I can bring to the table, is that kind of analytical, non-emotional, even if that comes across as a little bit rude. But I think that's what needs to be done, is crunching numbers, looking at efficiencies, looking at things we're doing that we don't need to be doing, and maybe just streamlining processes that, for all intents and purposes, haven't changed for probably 20 or 30 years. I think I can do that. So.
Okay, thank you. Why this position? Why position 3 as opposed to any other position?
Well, truthfully, so there was a group of 3 of us who kind of all got recruited by the same person, and positions weren't really agreed to yet. And at the last moment, a couple of folks got a little worried about running, and I think nobody wanted to go after the president, if you will, Gary Blizzard. So, I mean, I didn't mind at all. I think regardless of the position, they voted unanimous, you know, basically together as a group for many years now. So the same arguments you can have with one person, you can have with the other. And somebody wise once told me actually that, hey, it could be a blessing because it's a little bit more easy for a guy to attack another man than it is the other two positions being ladies. That's why I chose that.
Taking on the big dog.
Yes, sir.
All right. So what, okay, all right. Dale?
Okay, you even mentioned in your opening about efficiency, eliminating waste and so forth. You said that you've been doing a lot of digging in and you're a data man. So can you give us some examples of some of the things where you think efficiency can be improved and waste can be eliminated?
Yes, absolutely. I think if you look at students students per class, Magnolia is actually not too light. I think they do pretty well on the amount of teachers they have. I think it's definitely in the administrative section of it. Looking at the numbers of counselors and one specific position that has, I think, over 20 is just attendance. And I can't imagine in 2019 that can't be a position that you digitally input your attendance in the class and it just goes into a system. Those were two areas that jumped out to me. Secretaries, and we're not even just counting receptionists. There's, I think, approaching 30 secretaries in the district, which is pretty alarming to me. And then if you just start talking about pure salary numbers, I mean, there's efficiency aspects where I think you can streamline processes and eliminate the need for so many people to do redundant tasks or looking at tasks that maybe aren't necessary anymore. And that gets a little more difficult because the state mandates a lot of things, so things that maybe we don't even think add value, the state's going to make you do it whether you want to or not. But also looking at salaries, I think there's 27 or 28 positions that make over $100,000 a year in the district. And in a small little district like Magnolia, to me, that's always seemed to be, that caught my eye for sure. And I guess, and you'll probably get into it, but you know, if you look at it as a tax rate compared to the state, the M&O tax rate, Magnolia is actually in the bottom third or so of the state as far as overall tax rate. I think what they do with the dollars needs a little more efficiency. It's been run with about a zero budget for the last 5 years, or zero, what's the word I'm looking for, surplus. Now, at the end of the year, they sometimes end up with an extra $1 million that they're able to put away, and that's great. But with the nature of state funding never being able to be counted on year after year, if you run with a zero budget now and next year the state funding drops by 50%, what do you do? So I think that's something, I think the number's good. I think we need to be streamlining the processes to be able to increase that I can't forget the word, surplus at the end of the year to account for those down years and to put money away for investments that maybe don't need, that you don't need to go into bonds in the future for little items like we're seeing in the other school district.
Conroe?
Yes.
Okay, James.
Now, the school board are the only elected officials in the entire school district. Not the superintendent, not the teachers. And as the elected officials, if anything is underperforming in the school, the place to look for an elector to complain for a voter is the school board. So I'm going to take you off script, because I know with being an engineer like David is, that you're very much in the numbers and that's your comfort zone. I'm going to take you out of that comfort zone. Now you're on the school board and a parent comes to you and they have a child in Magnolia ISD. And they said there's a problem with their child and a teacher, and what they described to you does sound pretty alarming. I'm not talking about anything criminal, just something that needs to be corrected. They said they've spoken to the principal, to the teacher, very negative response, spoke to the principal will do nothing with that teacher. And so they actually tried to contact the superintendent and got no response. So you're the one they voted for, so they come to you with that problem. As a school board member, how would you handle that issue?
Well, assuming it sounds like an actually, I mean, let's face it, I'm sure I'll do this.
We'll say it sounds very plausible, but you don't have all the facts.
Yes, the superintendent works for the school board. I mean, the superintendent works for the whole district, but the school board selects the superintendent. The school
Correct.
board gives that superintendent their salary and their contract. So hopefully it's very clear to the superintendent that they work for the school board as well as all the parents and students of the district. So that would be obviously the first place to go, would be to the superintendent.
All right, the superintendent says, yes, I'm aware of that. What would you do? How would you proceed?
Well, I would want to hear an answer. I mean, if he's done some of his fact finding, I want to know those facts to be able to get, like you said, it sounds plausible, but maybe some more digging needs to be done. I want to know what digging he did and what was his, the result of his fact findings. What did he decide had happened? If I was happy with that answer, I mean, the biggest thing you can always do when somebody comes to you and complains is to close the loop back with the person to earn that trust and close that loop. So if I believe that, and he can show me that he's truly investigated that, doesn't believe it's an issue, or maybe he investigated it, doesn't believe it was an issue, and the teacher was reprimanded, and I would think the principal would need to be addressed if that was a situation where the principal also blew it off. I'd want to hear what exactly was done so that I can close the loop with that parent.
Would you feel free to go visit the school, not necessarily, well, maybe even to speak to the teacher, but to get a sense, or, would you think that'd be appropriate all to even go to the school as a school board member?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I don't feel like it was addressed thoroughly, I mean, that's the only option that you can have. Otherwise, you're absolutely writing off a concern of a parent over a student and child of theirs, which is, to me, completely unacceptable.
Well, what about in general? The superintendent is saying how wonderful the schools are doing. There aren't any problems. We've got it all taken care of. You need to give all of us a raise. Do you feel like you have any responsibility, other than sitting in the school board meeting room, any responsibility to spend some time out in the district, seeing how the buses are being handled, how the students are being handled, visiting schools, and just seeing, are the students happy? Do you have any responsibility in that regard as a school board trustee? You have 5 seconds to respond.
5 seconds, here we go. I think you have a right and a responsibility. I mean, to sit there and just sit back and show up once a month to a school board meeting and just take what's being, if I took what was being said at school board meetings and written on paper, maybe I wouldn't be running right now. If we took it at the values of how it's being said. So I absolutely agree. And you can always see so much with the occasional stop in, but there is something to be said for establishing a relationship with, some of the other principals, some of the other teachers, and being someone that they know they can call if they have concerns. That in some cases they may want you to keep them, anonymous. I think that can be important, because especially in I've already had some teachers message me that said, I like what you're saying, I like what you're hearing, you have my support, I just can't publicly say that, but I'm not alone in this, and I'll be reaching out to folks that think like me. So a big part of that union, if you will, is anonymous, is the need to be anonymous when they're complaining. So I think the only way you get that trust is to meet with people and be present.
Thank you, David.
So, you were in the Navy, very structured environment. Power plant industry, very structured environment. School, very structured environment. So you want to play the role of change agent. So how's your personality structured to be the person who comes in?
Agent of change.
Agent of change in the school system.
In any system that can be tough. I'm 1 month into my current job. I got brought in my other duty beside the maintenance manager, safety manager. This doesn't get aired, right? This is just for y'all's keeping.
No, this is
public.
Okay. Well,
Make sure he gets it at the end of it.
yeah. Well, okay. Well, anyway, my point is, there's things I've seen that it is hard at first being the new guy coming in a month and saying, here's some things I think we need to change. But if you come at it with a confidence and a background and establish that you have a basis for what you're saying, here's the hard data, here's the reason we're going to do this, perhaps you show other districts or areas where what you're recommending for change has worked, people start, it's not going to be liked, it's not always going to be well received, but you can back up why you're saying it and at the end of the day insist that it be done. But inevitably, the education system is the type of organization that doesn't necessarily welcome significant change and drastic change. And we see that quite often. Heck, something as simple as even, heaven forbid, suggesting merit-based pay or things of that nature.
Oh, yeah, they will fight you on that.
Yeah, those don't exactly get looked up, but that's your role. Is otherwise you're just sitting going with the flow and going with the status quo, and nothing's changing. And what was the point of running?
That's right.
For the board in the first place.
It sounds like running for U.S. Congress.
It sounds like beating your head against the wall. There was a dinner last week with Congressman Thomas Massey, and I said, I hope a lot of us appreciate what you do. I said, it must feel a lot like beating your head against the wall, but you keep a few, you're one of the few people who keeps some of us motivated, that there's still some hope there. So,
Sure.
but yeah, going back to that, if I wasn't comfortable doing that, I didn't want to do that, I wouldn't be running for this, because otherwise you're just keeping a seat warm and maintaining the same thing.
Are there any bonds currently being paid back that you know of?
Yes, there is, we have, I don't remember, I actually have the bond information right here in front of me. We have 3 or 4 bonds still left outstanding. We have payments going out to 2040, I can't remember the exact year. I've been looking at it all, but I've been looking at so many numbers, but I keep stuff close by.
Sure.
A big amount of it drops off in about 10 years, so about the 2029 school year, the payments go down in about half.
How much is the superintendent rate?
240. It's a little less than that. I think it's like 235, 236.
Do you think that is about par what he should be doing compared to what's out there in the private industry? Not against other school districts, because we all know that's kind of inflated.
In the private, it's hard to compare. I mean, so I'm trying to think if you consider the amount of people in the district as employees.
What if you compare it to the teacher's salary?
That's what I would more closely compare it to. And if you compare it to teacher's salary, no, not at all. Does it seem reasonable? You figure the entry level, the highest paid teachers in the district are making around $72,000 a year right now. There's only, I think there's 5 or 6 that make over 70,000. None of them exceed 72,000, but the bulk majority are in your 55 to 60,000 dollars.
Right.
And you'll get, and this kind of goes back to this all goes back to merit pay, right? Right now, if teachers want to make money, all they're looking for is how quickly can I get out of the classroom. So you may have good teachers who could do great things for students and make some more money if there was a merit pay system that would keep them in the classroom. But right now, they see, you can go superintendent. We have 3 assistant superintendents in the district, and then below that, dozens of specialists, and I forget some of the other titles, but it's, again, 28 or 29 folks who are making over $100,000 a year. None of those are having a direct effect in the classroom teaching students and impacting students' lives. So, but to go back to the originally, I don't think that seems fair if you compare it to, or fair or reasonable to teacher salaries.
What as a board member would you do to fix that? 28 folks making over 100K a year, not impacting the classroom.
Well, again, it starts at the top. The school district directly controls the contract of the superintendent. I don't remember when the current one expires. I know that's one thing that's actually easy to find on, relatively easy to find on district website, but I don't remember off the top of my head. But it's all going to trickle down from there. I think if you start scaling things in that manner, you start with a more reasonable superintendent salary, you can start talking about more reasonable assistant superintendent salaries, and you can start talking about more reasonable specialist and other salaries. And there's always going to be some level of administration. We all know that. But the goal of a school district is to educate students, and I think in today's age, the goal of school districts have been to employ adults and to just be another government source of employment instead of their real goal of being teaching and growing children and students. And then, of course, going back to it too, you implement a merit system, a way of recognizing and incentivizing the good teachers that keeps them in the classroom where they can have the biggest impact. I don't believe you have an impact anywhere near as significant of an impact when you leave to go work on curriculum or be any one of the 40 or something specialists in the district.
Okay. Yeah.
A lot of times, it's brought up about incentive pay, merit-based, and all that sort of stuff. There are a lot of snake pits out there. What are your thoughts, current thinking anyway, as far as how you implement merit-based? In other words, what would you use as a criteria that couldn't be gamed or whatever?
I don't think there's any one thing you can look at. I think there's school districts who have tried standardized testing. I think one of the issues you run into is, well, for one, I'm not a big fan of any of the standardized testing, is if you base it on standardized testing, you further incentivize only teaching the standardized testing instead of actual useful knowledge and education. The other drawback is there's only 3 or 4 subjects that get standardized tests. So what do you do? You know, there's not a reason you shouldn't be able to incentivize some of the other courses that kids take, not just math, science, English, and literature. I think maybe it's only 3. So I think that can be a piece to it if we're going to keep with standardized testing. But there's any other business. I'm sure you all get rated by your bosses, or at one point in time you've had bosses who give you a rating. It's something I've always been in an engineering field. Some people could argue that leads the door open to favoritism, but this is the real world. You have to trust that to some extent that the people you put in charge of schools are going to be able to accurately gauge the effectiveness and quality of the teachers that are underneath them. That should be one of their primary goals when they're hiring teachers and grading teachers. So I believe that can even have a much more significant impact. And it's not always going to be your standardized score outcomes, but seeing the teacher that's going the extra mile, that's impacting students, seeing students that are excited to learn. I think the governor used Dallas ISD as a case study recently. And, I haven't gotten all the details, but I know they said they have like some 7 or 8 different areas that they weigh into their merit-based pay. So no one thing is going to be the I guess the stake that gets you here. But I mean, I'd be open to some level of student and parent feedback as well. I mean, you of course have to treat that, with care, because a teacher can be hard. Sometimes they'll get a bad, it can still make them a good teacher, but you can get some bad feedback as a result of that. But I think you have to take multiple layers into account if you're going to implement a system like that. But I think it can and should be done as it is every other job in the world.
Okay, I have a follow-on question, but my time's up. James?
Sorry, I talked too long. I took a long time.
That's okay.
Now, of course,
I give that a turn.
a lot of superintendents, I think, forget this, or they, with real life experience. They came in, they went through the entire plaza, and they came back with recommendations that were fully implemented. It was amazingly, a lot of it was very simple things. So my question is, I don't know of a school district in the state that has done that. The state agency hasn't recommended for that. So my question is, what's wrong with the Magnolia ISD hiring someone? We're not talking about $1 million expense. It's probably something to be done for like $20,000 or $30,000 to come in and do some common sense recommendations for safety. For instance, most of the state schools don't even lock the classroom doors when class begins. I believe CISD does. That's just simple. So someone coming in, some student like the crazies that we're doing, can't get in. So my question is, what do you want the school board to do with regard to security in the school? Are we going to wait on the state, wait on the superintendent to figure something out, or what?
They should be
like an active shooter.
Yes, absolutely. That was one of the biggest things I've been talking about when I talk to folks is school safety. We haven't done much, as you said right now, and I agree. To hire contract someone to come in and identify the weaknesses in day-to-day operations and the buildings and the
solutions.
Campuses. Yes, absolutely. Some are going to have some dollar values, but some are going to be, like you just said, locking doors. That's free. Yeah. That's just a policy of lock the door when you're in class. That should be relatively simple. It seems like you said to me that's a no-brainer. No, absolutely not waiting for the state. And we don't really, there's no reason to wait for the state. We've been given the green light. Districts can now implement things like the school marshal or school guardian program. Yeah. And we have not done that yet. I don't understand why. I know there's a lot of as with everything, right? There's some level of pushback, but to me, that's a no-brainer, something to implement. Two very different programs, they have very different end results and end goals. One's much more thorough and leads to a teacher becoming essentially a police officer on the campus, whereas the other one just allows teachers with a license to carry and some additional training and being handpicked to carry. But all of those things should be on the table. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be metal detectors.
Quick question, does Magnolia ISD have on-site school district police force like CISD has?
Not on every campus. They have a small.
They do have some.
They have some, yes, sir.
Okay,
But not on every campus.
thank you, David.
So just a quick follow-on to that, are you familiar with Steve Toth's bill 1042? Because I think it addresses that, the active shooter program, and they're, part of that is doing the threat assessment.
Okay. No, that's not the superintendent pay one, is it? That's supposed to be something different.
HB 1042 relating to requiring law enforcement agencies to establish a campus active shooter response plan.
Okay. No, I was not aware of that, but there's no reason we should have to wait for that. That's something my church has done that.
Smart.
Yes.
My church, they all carry. So it's like,
And we do as well. So.
Good.
But it's still good to prepare and have somebody look at those things.
that's true.
I think, yeah, I mean, the Catholic Church, the only thing they're required to bring is a wallet. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the price of entry.
You gotta check your wallet before you do it.
Yeah, no.
So, you know, the lieutenant governor and governor are proposing a $5,000 pay raise for the teachers. What are your thoughts on that?
Terrible. I mean, again, going back to the idea of merit-based pay, we've seen time and again throwing more money, especially blanket money with no firm intention. Of course, it started as all, you never can win, right? It started as all teachers, and then there was an uproar about librarians, so librarians get added in the final hour of the Senate hearing, and now, of course, school counselors were saying, hey, we're teachers who had to go and get extra training, and now we're out of the classroom and we're counselors. Why aren't we included? Specialists and curriculum administrators who left the classroom are asking the same thing. But no, any blanket, and this goes for any industry, just a blanket going in and telling everyone you magically all get an extra pay raise is not a good way of doing business, and it's not a very good financial decision. I think it started out as being a $2 billion decision. I think when librarians and some extras get added, last I heard it was approaching $4 billion. And I'm still trying to understand, I believe it's only for 2 years that this is even covered, and I don't.
It is. School districts fix it up.
If, real quick, the reason to do it is last session, it was all towards transportation. And the big cry was, you're not supporting education.
Yes.
This time, there's only so much money to go around, and so that's just pure politics in that regard.
And that's just and the money's being given to the boards, but then it's being given to the fund, but it's being mandated that it's for a specific purpose. It's
Not for the administration, but.
Exactly. And that's why I keep trying to explain to people, and I think I said in my questionnaire, there is no state money, there is no local money, there is no federal money, it is all our money. So if we think it's magically coming from a different place at the state and coming to us, that's not the case, and it's either going to be more money out of our pockets or it's going to be less funding in some other area to accomplish this. And what do you do 2 years later when you change it again? What I said, if this ends up coming to fruition, which it definitely butts heads with HB3 right now, so I don't know what they're going to come out of that, because HB3 is the intent of incentivizing school districts for giving merit-based pay, completely different than SB3, that's a blanket, and of course it was unanimously approved. Kind of surprised. I don't know if we've ever had anything unanimous in a while, but
So your thoughts on, we've talked about merit pay for teachers. Do you think we should structure the superintendent's pay to be variable? So there's a variable element, a fixed element, and that he doesn't hit performance goals, he doesn't get the variable portion of the pay.
seems reasonable. If you look at the superintendent, like executive of a company, that most of those pays are structured in bonuses and much less in salaries. So I hadn't thought of that, but that makes, we have to start looking at this like a business. I mean, the primary goal is educating students, but it's become a business, and we need to it's become a business that's funded with imaginary money that nobody thinks actually comes from our pockets. So we have to start realizing.
A profit-based business and governmental organizations. Very
Yes, yes. Yeah. Unfortunately, to our dismay.
Okay, how many school facilities are in the district?
high school, 2 junior high, and 5, I don't remember if it's 5 or 6 elementaries. And there's one alpha school, it's going to be 80 or 90 students. It's an alternative education program for disciplinary action. Might even stand for that. So, I don't remember. So that's actually technically a 3rd high school.
Any new schools under construction that, any on the board?
Like on the board to be built.
Yeah. A general question was, what makes you qualified in this office? Name 3 reasons for being candidates in this position. There was one thing that you had talked about, you managed budget, you made that clear that you've done that. And what is the budget for the Magnolia School District?
Just over $101 million a year for M&O, and 40. I haven't looked at the INS as much, and to be honest, there's not a lot you can do with that for raise or lower the INS. The rates always get set way too conservative, and they end up getting way more money in that fund than they need. But you'll never hear me complain about paying off debt either. So, but M&O is right around $101 million a year.
All right. Go ahead, John. Okay.
That's quick.
Yeah, it's good.
Giving y'all some time back.
Let's see, this timer set. I'm gonna pass.
There you go, yeah.
Okay. Back on the subject of administration salaries and so forth, I heard what you said earlier. If I interpreted correct, you're talking about basically salary reductions. And that, I'm not sure I've ever seen that happen.
I mean, salary reductions can take several forms, right? I mean, you can be simply freezing salary, which even if the federal government, we talked about that, right, in conservative circles, we're not even saying you have to cut, just don't grow for a few years and we'd be in really good shape. And that can be done here as well. Even oil and gas, I mean, where I came from, salary reductions, people were let go if the positions were no longer needed because things slowed down, and that in any organization, regardless of the entity, is always on the table. If you can find ways to streamline and, as I've said, streamline processes, make them simpler, eliminate processes, free up positions, that's always an option. But there is also the option of not giving those annual increases. And you better believe that's what we did for 4 or 5 years. We didn't get any inflationary increases or market-based increases or whatever each company calls them. And that is, companies know that's a way of kind of getting some of that back, kind of getting back to the mean, if you will, in a down market, or in this case, with some salaries that may be much higher than they should be.
Okay, and related to that, you're all for, and I think most people are, more money kept in the classroom. So what do you do with money in the classroom other than teacher salaries? Do you have other ideas for money in the classroom?
When I say that, I'm primarily, referring to teacher salaries. And again, if you talk about merit-based, but even for the same number of teachers, if you increase that money or if you free up more money from the classroom, that's the only way you're gonna, I can talk merit-based all day long, but right now we run a zero, basically we use 100% of our budget, so that's not something that could even be done next week without significant changes. But by reducing some of those administrative costs, you're freeing up funds for the classroom, which in my opinion would be the form of merit-based pay for high performing teachers.
Didn't know if you had something else in mind on that. Okay, James.
Now, of course, speaking of budgets and the financing and everything, particularly when a bond comes along, but let's just say that the administration has decided, for whatever reason, growth, a new school needs to be built, or a school needs significant improvements or maintenance. And they're going to come with you, at most, a line item, maybe 3 or 4 lines of details. Are you going to require any detail to justify the expense, like a takeoff, an estimate of materials list and the cost of materials, skill, or what? Because they're not going to give it to you.
No, absolutely. I mean, when
without your manual.
Right. When that time comes for a need for a school or improvement, before you go and start asking for money, you should have contractors bidding your work, and any contractor, I mean, my job as a contractor was always to give labor, materials, details, square footage, here's my plans. And especially, you know, if you're dealing with your own personal home, you can pick whoever you want. When you're dealing with the public's money, when you're choosing something like that, you should be choosing, I won't always say the cheapest, because the cheapest doesn't always mean something that's gonna last long or be the best build, but the most bang for your buck, if you will. You get 3 or 4 contractors to bid on it. And if you actually do that and settle on one, there's always caveats because they hold pricing for so long and you have to escalate it. But that should be something that the public gets with information. And certainly the school district and those making that decision should insist on that, not just $200 million ought to build us 2 schools. Yeah, it might be.
Would you look to have contract penalties if the builder is late in developing, that sort of thing?
Yes, absolutely. That's something I would want to do on my own home, is when I've had businesses who have grown and added campuses, there was penalty, and there was, quite honestly, bonuses for coming in under.
Because I can tell you, I'm an educator from the superintendent down, don't know squat about construction. They're just going to know, we want to spend money doing it. Thank you, David.
You're running against the president of the school board. So what are the 3 failures that you're gonna say you can do better? Where is he falling short, and how are you gonna overcome?
Again, going back to the board as a whole, it's basically been group voting for a while, so it's kind of been hand in hand and all of that, regardless of which position you're speaking of. But specifically, I think again, and I have some graphs I've put together of funding per student year after year, and we've been growing since 2013, and yet we still have no, not deficit, we still have no surplus.
No reserve.
Yeah, no reserve. Now, at the end of the year, they end up sometimes having $1 million extra that they put away, but for the last 5 years, despite having more money per student year after year increasing, there's been minimal amount put away in reserve. They do meet that recommended 25% by a couple $1 million, but to me, that's one of the biggest things, is how are we getting more and more money every year? And that's based on per student, so it's not just a matter of saying, hey, we're having to hire more teachers. Well, yes, you are, but again, it's adjusted for students, and I went ahead and even adjusted it for inflation in case somebody's asked that, because that's a legitimate question. So that's one thing. Because of that, because of things that have been said and tried in the past, I'm anticipating another strong attempt at another increase in taxes as soon as there's another opportunity. I think if we think that's not on the horizon without some changes in the board, we're fooling ourselves. And figuring out what to do with that INS. Right now we're collecting way more than we need. I go back and forth on how I feel about that, because I don't like interest. I like paying off debt as soon as possible. I do it in my own life. But evaluating either lowering that INS, it was trying to be done as a quid pro quo or a promise, but if we were capable of doing that, that could have been done in advance rather than doing it as a trade-off. But I'm also still open to just paying off debt as quickly as possible. So.
Okay. Under the budget, we ask a question on questionnaire. Will you vote to limit budget increases to a factor based on population growth and inflation, and explain? And one of your answers was that I would then like to see, first, let me read it first. Yes, I believe that we have room to improve in the current budget and begin to create a surplus. My question is, explain a little bit more about this. Your statement of, I would then like to see the non-classroom budget remain flat for several years as the county grows and property values increase. Explain that.
That's kind of what I was talking about holding salaries and administrative roles steady and holding budgets. Right now, rather than treating administrative as a zero-based budgeting, which many of y'all have budgeted, it's every year saying, I have $0, what do I need to get done? Rather than just saying, I had this many dollars last year, I'm going to inflate it, I need 103% of what I used last year for administration. So if, as the county grows, which we're going to grow, we know we're a growing county, and as we get more students and the county grows, which means we get more money, if we can hold with the administrative cost we have right now, without increasing that and adding administration and adding burden there, you are inevitably free up money in that fashion. So it's not necessarily making cuts, or just lowering salaries across the board, but merely holding what you have while you grow is going to free up a significant.
So you're talking about freezing salaries or freezing hires or both?
Both.
Okay. Or administration?
In administration, that's what I mean. Inevitably, if the classrooms get too large, and too large is a vague statement because depending on the type of class and the age group, class size, optimal.
Well, freezing would mean to hire even one more, they have to come back to the board
I
for permission.
That would be. how I
Whereas
would treat
four
it.
would be up to the superintendent.
Yes, I think administratively, that's where we need to be, is seeking the board's permission for any new administrative hires. And, otherwise, teachers, again, looking at classroom size, I think that's a little bit different. As we grow, we inevitably need
I'm
more.
going to hear complaints about not being able to keep good teachers. I've never heard anyone claim they can't keep good administrators.
It goes back to what I said, it's become a business of keeping employment rather than.
That's right.
educating.
Totally.
So are any of those folks covered under any kind of civil service or teachers union or administrative union or anything like that that has to be overcome to make those changes?
I'll be honest, in administrative, I'm not sure. I mean, of course, Texas, it's not mandatory anyway. Teachers, inevitably, you will have some of that. Administrators, I don't know. That's a good question. I imagine several of the union groups I know of welcome administrators as well as teachers, so it's a possibility.
Got about 5 minutes.
I
Anybody
think
else?
James just asked us, David.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Good.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
Okay. One of the hot topics last legislative session and this legislative session is what they label school choice. So I'd like your thoughts from the big picture, Texas-wide perspective, and then specifically what you would see that from Magnolia ISD.
Well, the school district's never going to want. I mean, school choice, kind of the premise, I know it's been thrown up a few different ways, but is money following the child? When you say school choice, that's what you're referring to, right?
Well, it depends on who's selling.
That's what I mean.
you're saying.
Okay, yes. I mean, the premise of money follows the child, school district's never going to like, right? Because if I have 2 kids and I choose to homeschool and basically my property taxes, whatever you want to say $8,000 a year for my 2 kids are now staying with me instead of the school district. That's bad business for the school district, right? Now, me personally, what do I like? I love the idea of it, right? To me, simplistically, I should say, I love the idea of the school choice because it's the best way to send a message. You're taking money, you're saying, I would rather keep my child home. People who are already keeping their child home, but the money's still going to the district. Now, maybe not from the state, because the state often pays on average daily attendance, but the school district itself, through property taxes, would see a hit. And that's kind of that feedback loop of, if you do better, maybe I would put my kid in the system. Now, the untrusting government person to me who used to support the whole premise of school choice, but now has kind of come back around to everything comes with strings attached. We have a pretty free homeschool system in Texas. I think about the only ones who can rival us are Oklahoma, which I think might be a little freer, but I see that as a pretty quick way to losing a lot of homeschool freedom. And if you're going to keep your money, you're going to come in here and take the test, and you're going to give the curriculum we insist on giving. Parents are going to be certified. So, me personally, as a strong freedom lover and distrusting of government, I don't see any way school choice wouldn't eventually end up being a regulation of homeschool and reduction of homeschool freedom in Texas. But the end result of acting with your wallet, if you will, or making a difference with your wallet, I like that, but I wouldn't risk it.
And I understand exactly what you're saying, but the mantra is you're locking my child into a failing school. So how then do you address that?
Without schools, right now we still have the option to keep our children home. It's frustrating for parents who are homeschooling to still be paying school tax into property tax into a system they aren't utilizing. But that's still an option for parents who choose to do so. And honestly, if parents couldn't afford the homeschool without the school choice, the voucher, whatever you want to say, I guess I keep talking about homeschool, but I keep forgetting school choice also meant vouchers to private institutions,
Correct.
which might have been more along the lines of where you were asking that question. So I think that's about being more active. I think parents have, I think I said in there, that the biggest measure of success to a child is a stable household where parents are active and involved, mother and father, financially stable. The impact we can have in a school board is not taxing people out of their homes and adding burden. But parents who are saying my child's in a failing school system we need to be doing more than saying my child's in a failing school system. It's taking over school boards, it's demanding action, it's demanding change. And again, I love the idea of money following a child and being able to free up and almost privatize the school system, if you will, but homeschool freedom, I think it's a slippery slope.
Well, it's definitely multifaceted, and so what if you had a school, one of the schools in Magnolia ISD that was clearly a failing school? What are you gonna do?
That's actually, so merit pay, the example that the governor used of Dallas ISD, that's actually why they started implementing it, was they found the strongest teachers in the other schools around the district and incentivized them and paid them more to come into the failing school districts that were being put under state control. And I don't remember the exact number, I think they had 9 schools that were in that rating, and after implementing the system 5 or 6 years ago, all but 2 of them have come out of the the mandated state oversight. So I think, I keep saying it, merit, I think honestly, keeping good teachers in the classroom and in the district through merit pay will go a long way. And we all know this now. I mean, we have to be involved. I mean, the parents and the people who are seeing this need to be more involved. And right now, other than occasionally complaining to each other, I don't think, and myself included, don't always do a whole heck of a lot.
So, too many are not interested in being more involved, but that's a whole separate subject. So, you want to take it over now?
And it doesn't have to mean running for the school board yourself, but I mean, showing up to school board meetings or making sure, finding your friend, you get a group of 100 parents, 200 parents who aren't happy with it, probably one of those parents would gladly run for a school board position and be the change you want to see.
I used to live in Wisconsin, and they had a program that, they had school choice for private, they also had school choice.
Speak up.
They also had school choice for public schools, so.
And
In Wisconsin, and so as an example, the kids could go to any other school in any other school district as long as they had space. And
As long
money
as
would
they
follow the
transportation,
students.
how do they do the transportation?
It was up, in that case, it was up to the parent to provide the transportation. Right, if you, like Milwaukee, Milwaukee schools were failing, so they opened it up to the kids who wanted to go to the suburb schools. Well, in my area, we had kids just adjacent rural school systems would come to the Lake Geneva school system. So I don't know if that's an option that you thought about. That we have, 5, 6 systems in the county. We just went through a Conroe ISD that we have capacity in some schools.
Is that a little bit like magnet schools, maybe?
No, they weren't really
That's
magnet.
right.
They were just some became magnet schools by accident. I mean, they had a high performance school and it had, you could take 60 more kids and they, basically 60 more kids.
I think that happens sometimes here, though.
On some occasions, they will allow that.
If you're near a district
But
line,
it's not
you're
normal.
requesting to go to another district. And to be clear, I like everything about the idea. I forgot about the private school too. When I kept talking about homeschool, I just worry about the homeschool freedom aspect.
Well, the homeschool would not be that complicated. You don't want to give them vouchers because that would not work out right. What you do is the schools may still get credit for the student, but the school is required to provide free materials to the teaching at the home, free hardware, they're giving iPads, whatever, that kind of thing, and access to whatever classes they do want the child to attend. That would be something you could explore.
Yes, absolutely. I think this is the Rob Hall in me, I guess, because I read his book on education is pretty good. But I do think there is some future. The future of education is going to be more and more remote, I think, especially in the later grades. The high school classes.
School boards will fight that
No,
tooth and nail.
Forget it. 100% agree. I mean, everybody would fight that because you're talking about, you may have the nation's leading expert in whatever subject it has to be. There's absolutely no reason that teacher shouldn't be able to sit in a classroom somewhere and talk remotely to an entire nation of students on a subject.
Definitely.
And then you have aides overseeing the class, but you don't have, and you can have larger classes. And the U.S. system has gone to this whole, we need less than 20 kids in the classroom, which in high school totally, completely fails children to get ready for college, where you're going to be one of 400 or 500
That's right.
people in a class. And the professor doesn't give a darn if you show up or not, and isn't going to answer questions for you after class.
That's an engineering school.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Well, hey, this is.
Not in political
time.
science. I know.
We'll wrap it up and you have up to 5 minutes closing and then we'll finish up. Appreciate it.
Yes, no, I appreciate it again. I think I've got to say a lot of the things I wanted to say. You can tell I'm adamant about incentivizing good teachers to keep them in the classroom and keep the good teachers and hopefully bring in more good teachers. But we have a good ways to go. It's a cool thing to say. I think it would be a great thing to implement that I would fight for, but we have to free up some budget money to be able to do anything like that. And who knows what we're going to have in store for us in 6 months or so when the legislative session ends regarding school funding. And, I think it's going to be, again, I've said it, I wish all school funding came from the district itself and the state, other than making sure that there was a school system available, which technically is the only thing they are required to do. Would stay out of the funding aspect altogether, because it's just a big money shuffling scheme, and the more hands that touch it, the more you lose it. And let's face it, parents in a given district should be having much more control over.
Don't forget the lottery.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No, the lottery funded. It's all free now. The lottery funded schools. Hey, go home. We don't need a school board. We don't need taxes. But we have. That's not the incentive pay or merit pay for teachers isn't somewhere in a position to be able to implement immediately. We need to make room and make some changes to be able to do that. It's going to be an uphill battle. I think it depends, what the board looks like come May 5th. But I don't mind being the odd man out and being, getting some bad stares, because it's not about, I guess, what they say in the Navy. I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to make chief, was a big joke in the Navy. But it's not to say you have to be rude or bad about it, but if you go in there with a very, a goal in mind that's best for the students, it's best for the taxpayers, it's best for, at a minimum, your high-performing teachers, you're going to be on the right side of everything. And it's sad that that's an uphill battle, but I expect it will be one, but a challenge I'm excited to undertake.
Okay, great. Well, thanks again for coming in.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.